I think that one of the most expensive mistakes that you can make in business and in life is thinking that you know everything. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned through my experience, my unique journey as an entrepreneur, working with mentors, consultants, advisors, billion-dollar companies, and everything, is realizing that there's always another level. Recently, I've noticed this common recurring pattern with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs and founders that I'm talking to, where they simply do not take meetings with people because they think it doesn't lead to anything. They think they're above the meeting. It's a waste of their time. It's diverting their attention or any other form of excuse. And I wanted to record this video specifically to talk about the importance of humility, its role in your success, and what it actually looks like when you're applying this correctly. So a lot of people have this concept of humility, like someone gives you a compliment and then you take it like, oh, I'm not that good, or thank you so much. And, that kind of humility. But one of the things I learned from a mentor of mine is that people are outwardly very humble, but inwardly very cocky. In other words, they think they know it all, but when you give them something simple like a compliment, they react in a way like, oh, that's humility. That's surface level humility. If you want actual humility, let's take the example of someone like Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan is one of my favorite basketball players, as I'm sure many of you watching this can relate. And if you study or if you've read the book Michael Jordan, The Life by Roland Lazenby, they get into detail specifically in that book of how Michael Jordan, what his character was like on and off the court. If you were playing Michael Jordan was kind of like me in the sense that he's insanely competitive, right? He would even tell the people that he was going against, the opposite team, when they were playing basketball, he says, "Man, I'm literally gonna annihilate. Like I'm gonna beat you so bad that you're gonna go home crying to your mom, pretty much, right?" But when he was in practice, when he was in training, he was the most humble guy. In fact, in the book it says, even if Michael Jordan was quoted as saying, even if I thought my coaches were wrong, I would shut up, listen, and try to learn something anyway. And yet I come across business owners and entrepreneurs and founders who maybe they're making five figures. They definitely haven't crossed the six-figure mark, yet they have this level of ego where they're not willing to be humble. So to give you another example of what humility actually looks like in action, we can take someone like Sam Walton. Sam Walton is known, if you don't know who Sam Walton is, this is one of the great catastrophes of the modern world. People are more familiar with the name Kim Kardashian than they are with the name Sam Walton. Sam Walton is the founder of Walmart. And there's another good book called Made in America, which I highly recommend people pick up. It's basically a biography on Sam Walton and his life. And one of the things that they talk about is saying that Sam Walton is one of the people who's known for being more in his competitor stores than he was in his own stores, right? This is someone that we're talking about to operate at $1 billion level with a beat, right? And yet you have people that aren't willing to invest 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes a week, a month into doing competitor research. So I think it's important to never lose perspective, right? Now, if we examine someone like Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, there's a story that I'm very fond of, right? There's a story of these Brazilian businessmen that were over in Brazil and they were starting this retail business. And what they wanted to do, they were very young, ambitious, and they wanted, they were hungry for success. So what they did is that they ended up sending 100 pieces of mail. I think this was back, when they did physical mail, right? Lumpy mail is what we refer to it as in the industry. And they sent 100 pieces of physical mail to the top CEOs, top 100 CEOs of retail companies in the US, asking to have dinner with them. And the purpose of this dinner was for them to learn from these American businessmen. And then of those 100 people that they contacted, 99 of them did not respond except one. And the one person that responded was Sam Walton. And Sam Walton said, absolutely, I would love to meet with you. So what happened is these Brazilian businessmen, they flew from Brazil to America. And when they arrived from the plane, there was this guy in a pickup truck that was waiting for them. And they asked the guy, are you going to take us to Sam Walton? He said, I am Sam Walton, get inside the car. Right. So very humbly enough to be able to pick them up. So Sam Walton takes them to his house. These Brazilian businessmen, they sit at his dinner table to eat food that his wife prepared for them. And, they start talking. They're having conversation and eventually they get into the topic of business. And the Brazilian businessman asks Sam Walton, how did you, and they start asking him about his business. And he says, yeah, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to answer your question. But before we get into that, let me ask you this question, and then this question, and then another question, and another question. And before the end of the night, the Brazilian businessman realized that it was 3 or 4 hours before, they came to the realization that the reason that Sam Walton invited them to his house wasn't so that they could learn from him, it was so that he could learn from them. Now we're talking about someone that's operating at a billion-dollar level, learning from some Brazilian businessmen, right? There's another story that I'm fond of about Sam Walton when it comes to Brazil, where one time Sam Walton made a trip to Brazil and he was staying with this host family. And the host family, they got a phone call one day from Brazilian police saying that they had arrested Sam Walton and that he was in prison. And so the host family, they immediately went to the prison to go bail him out. And then when they got there, they told, the Brazilian authorities, do you know who you have here? Like, this is a Brazilian, billionaire. I mean, excuse me, an American billionaire businessman. And they said, we had no idea. We thought he was a crazy person. And so whatever, they bailed him out and they threw him in there because they were protecting the public, right? So basically what the host family did is that they bailed him out. And then when Sam Walton was released from prison, they asked him, like, what were you doing? Like, why did they arrest you? They told us that you were crawling on the floor of the different stores. And he said, yeah, the reason I was on the floor of the different retail stores in Brazil was because I was measuring the aisles to see if they knew something that I didn't know. Right. So the reason I share these stories with you is because I think they're very symbolic and representative of the level of humility that it takes to be able to achieve, high levels of net worth. I come across, business people, entrepreneurs, people from all walks of life that say, I want to make $1 million, right? Or I have an idea for the next $1 billion company, but they've never started a company that's made $100,000 or even $1,000, right? So I think that, like Meek Mills, the rapper says there's levels to the game, right? And I think that having the right perspective when it comes to this and starting with awareness, starting with humility can definitely be something that will separate you and increase your chances of becoming what we're doing in the business development space. We're revolutionizing the space so that people have an easier time becoming more successful. So with that being said, I hope this conversation was valuable for you. Would definitely appreciate your feedback, your comments, your questions in the comments below. Make sure to share this video, give it a thumbs up, and let us know what we could do moving forward. Look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.